What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the number one rule for becoming more emotionally intelligent. And what that loosely translates to is the number one rule for being happier in your life. So I'll tell you the reason that I'm making this video. I was reflecting on what were the biggest changes that I've made in my life. What has been the biggest determining factor that has gotten me from somebody who was complacent, not very happy with their life, pretty dissatisfied, not really excited to go out into the world and to explore and experience and to kind of implement myself and try to make a difference. And now a couple years later and a whole lot of self-development later, here I am, and I'm somebody who's excited about life. I'm very satisfied. I don't feel like life is happening to me anymore. I feel like I am happening to life. I feel like I'm creating my reality rather than my reality kind of just happening to me without my say. And as that might sound, I'm enjoying my life a whole lot more now than I was then. That's the product of self-development. So I was thinking, what was the biggest determining factor that got me from there to here, if I had to pick just one? And I reflected on this, and when you want to pick just one, it has to be fundamental. It has to be at the core. It has to be something that is at the root of the effects, at the root of the differences that have been made in my life. And what I determined was that I stopped letting my emotions dictate my course of action. So that brings us to the number one rule in becoming more emotionally intelligent. Becoming more responsive versus reactive. So that's the number one rule to becoming more emotionally intelligent. Responding versus reacting. So I'll make the distinction between what sets those two apart. A reaction is unconscious. It's not thought over. It's very biased. It's something that kind of just comes out. You feel like you're the victim to a circumstance, or something's just kind of going on, and your immediate emotional reaction that is unconscious, that's very biased and unfiltered, just comes out. And when this is an unconscious process like it is, it tends to dictate your course of action. So that's a reaction. Unconscious, right? Very instant. There's not a lot of time between what happened and your reaction to what happened. A response, on the other hand, which is what you want to go for. You want to go for becoming more emotionally responsive. A response has more awareness. It's closer to the truth because it's less biased. You're not just thinking about it from your perspective. A response is multi-perspectival versus being very biased and only having one perspective, which is your own. A response is more conscious and more aware in that there's a pause. There's a consciousness that takes place. There's sort of like a reflective process, even if it's just a couple seconds, that goes on between something that happens and the way that we respond to it. So that's the distinction between a reaction and a response. So maybe I'm somebody who has possessiveness issues. I'll give you an example of how I would react to something. Let's say I'm in a classroom setting or like a seminar setting, and I have two pens out on the table. I'm using one of them, and maybe I'm color coding. So I have a blue pen and a red pen. And the guy beside me he borrows my red pen, even just for a second. He just borrows it to like write his name before, I don't know. He's going to give it right back, but he's just borrowing it. If I have possessiveness issues, this may trigger an emotional reaction. I might get upset and right away. I might act on this and maybe give the guy shit for taking my pen. Now, most people with a more clear perspective, with a perspective that isn't tainted with these issues that I have of possessiveness, would say that that is an overreaction, that it wasn't warranted. And they would very well be correct. Maybe I have an outburst at this guy for borrowing my pen, and that's not warranted. There's no need for me to become very emotionally charged and project my own trauma onto him. This is an emotional reaction. You can see where if I'm somebody that's going to react like that, there's a lot of suffering going on inside of me in response or in reaction to the events that just took place, being that the guy borrowed my pen. I'm going to get all stirred up inside, right? I'm going to be very turbulent, frustrated, angry, and I'm going to have a reaction that I may very well act on. A response, now let's put myself into the shoes of that same person, but instead I'm going to respond. So if I'm somebody who even has the capacity to respond, that means that, let's pretend I'm the same person that has this trauma and I have these possessiveness issues because of, maybe something in my childhood. Maybe I had a lot of siblings and at the dinner table, like you kind of got to eat quick or you can't eat at all. I'm sure I grew up with 2 siblings, and not that that was an issue, but that's kind of like a cliche that people have, like, oh, I eat fast because I have siblings, right? So maybe that's something that you have. I don't know. You just have these possessiveness issues. But I'm somebody who has more of a capacity to respond now. So what that looks like is I am somebody who is aware of these feelings inside of me. So that guy takes my pen, the same emotion arises. I get a little bit turbulent inside. But instead of being very short-fused and reacting on that right away, I take a pause and I actually consciously notice that that emotion is there, that these sensations in my body are starting to arise as a result of the guy taking my pen. So now I stop and I kind of breathe into it. Maybe I breathe into it, I let it go. Right? Big deep breath, that tends to relieve some tension. And maybe I start to reflect on how, wow, this is something that I really need to start working out more. Like my emotional, like my body is having an emotional response to this. Like I'm feeling a little bit angry. But because I've developed a capacity to respond, I can maybe just tell the guy, hey man, like I'd appreciate it if you just asked next time. Like you can borrow it, no big deal. But and that is much more warranted. That's much more reasonable. So that's a response instead of a reaction. Now, in order to become more responsive instead of reactive, there's a lot of things that have to take place. So the main differences were that the version of me who responded instead of reacted caught the emotions as they started to rise. So I actually started to notice some feelings in my body, right? Maybe I started to tense up a little bit. I tightened up. And I just started to get a little bit more angry. You can only respond if that's something that you notice. Because if you don't notice that, it's just going to come right out of your mouth. You're just going to blurt it out. You're just going to be angry. If you notice, this is something that's rising inside of me right now. Okay, here it is. What do I do with it? Now you have a capacity to respond. So what you have to do is start becoming more emotionally aware in general, right? Because to become more emotionally aware is to notice when the emotions arise in you. So if you're somebody who has some anger management issues, or there's just some reoccurring emotions that come up and they might be putting a bit of a blockage on your life, like maybe you have some anxiety, or maybe you have anger issues, start to get in touch with what that feels like. So, okay, you have anxiety. All right, so what does that feel like? Where in your body are you feeling it, and what does it feel like? Do you feel it in your chest? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel tight? Oh, you have anger. Okay, what does the anger feel like? Do you feel it, I don't know, you feel it like all over your body? Do you feel it in your head? Does it feel like it's just trying to explode? It feels like it's pounding. on the inside of your walls, right? Start to, and it's going to be different for everyone. Might not be different by too much, but I'm sure we all experience emotions differently. We label them, one might label them the same thing, but anger to me might mean something different from anger for you. It might feel different. It might rise in a different way. So you can go ahead and like use Google, for example. What does anger feel like, to kind of find the words? But that's going to be Google's definition. So it's actually important for you to sit down and reflect on what the emotions, and especially the recurring emotions, feel like for you. So anxiety and anger are probably the two most popular ones that hold people back in their lives. That's why those were the ones that came to my head. But maybe overexcitement is something that kind of holds you back. Maybe you're really quick to jump on something without giving it too much thought, right? Maybe that's something that you have to work on. Maybe self-doubt is something that is an emotion that holds you back. All right, so what does that feel like? You get where I'm going with this. It's a reflective process that each individual has to do in order to become more aware. It's great that you're listening to this, but you actually have to do the practices too. So this is giving you the intellectual knowledge of what it is to become more emotionally intelligent, but then you actually have to do some practices, and you actually have to develop this in yourself. Hearing it isn't enough. It's just the first step. Because now that you know, it's like, oh, okay, this is what I have to do. And now you have to go do it. So you need to develop an awareness over the spectrum of emotions that goes on inside of you. When you think about what emotions are, right, you feel them in your body. They're bodily sensations. Outside of that, they're kind of just conceptual. We use words to describe them, but they arise in our body, and then our mind filters them out into the world. So we're kind of developing a good filter. We're refining our emotions now. We're refining our consciousness. We're becoming more conscious individuals if we can become more aware of our emotions and respond when our emotions rise instead of react. So that's how you're going to become more emotionally intelligent. That's the number one rule to becoming more emotionally intelligent, is responding instead of reacting. Now, this is where this is going to be so helpful for you in your life in a very practical sense. I mean, I'm sure you can already see how this is going to benefit you, but the way it's going to help you the most is that your emotions are going to stop dictating your actions. So let's say you're somebody who is trying to eat better, right? You don't have a very good diet. Why? Because you constantly might have this rising emotion of desire for junk foods, for foods that are high in salt, sugar, and fat. So once you can label that emotion, oh, it's okay, this is desire. This is what desire feels like. Okay, great. Now you can catch it when it's there, when it rises. It's still easier said than done. Labeling it almost isn't enough. Like, knowing what it feels like, that's definitely the first step, because now you have something to point to. It's like, oh, there it is. Okay, now what? Now I can reflect and respond instead of react. So a reaction to this desire would look like this. Number one, you're not even recognizing that the desire is there. It's very unconscious, and you're giving into it. You're just going to go get the bag of chips in the cupboard, or head over to the store and get some freaking Pogos or something. I don't know. So that's a reaction. A response is, okay, here's that desire. All right, now you have to watch it. Now you're sitting with your desire. You're observing it. So the first step in order to cultivate more of a capacity to do that is to become more aware of your emotions, right? Doing that reflective process like I talked about, labeling what they are, where they are in your body, what they feel like. But then in order to stay on top of this and be able to integrate that awareness into your life a little bit more, developing a meditation practice is going to help so much. Because when you think about meditating, by the way, go check out my videos on benefits of meditation and how to meditate for beginners if you haven't already, and to help you to implement this. But meditation is going to help you to have an awareness over things as they rise. Because think about it. Let's say you have a meditation practice where you just sit still for 10 minutes a day. What meditation is you're just trying to stay conscious of your breathing, and you're noticing other things as they rise inside of you. So you're becoming more conscious of your mental activity. So you can see where meditation will help with this. Once you know how to describe the feelings and the emotions, and now you can catch them when they rise, meditation is going to help you do that more frequently and more consistently, because you're going to have more of an awareness over your mental activity. And now once that happens, you're going to catch it. You can do some more reflection. So you can reflect on, okay, there it is again, right? I don't want to actually eat this junk food, because maybe if you're somebody who, like I said, you're trying to go on a diet or something, you're trying to eat better, you know in your head the pros and cons. You want to stop eating the cookies and you want to start eating apples instead, because cookies are not good for you and apples are, whatever your reasons are. Maybe you're trying to lose some weight. Maybe you're just trying to feel more energized. You have your reasons. And now when you're responsive to your emotions, you can go back and connect. Okay, here's this desire for the cookies. All right. Do I want to eat them? Why do I not want to eat them? Let's reconnect with my intention here of not wanting to eat them. And it's like, oh, okay, that's right. And that's actually one of my key points in the video I have about staying motivated, is that you have to stay connected to why you started. Stay connected to your intention behind something. So these are other little tidbits that I'm throwing at you. You can go check out those videos that I mentioned too. Those are pretty good. Those are going to help you a lot. So this is how you stop letting your emotions dictate your actions in life. Maybe you have some attachment issues. Maybe you have some limiting belief systems. This is going to go for that too. Your emotions of having a desire to abusive men, for example, you're going to catch those emotions and now you can reflect on them. So being more emotionally responsive opens up a capacity for more awareness, for more consciousness. So this is what I meant at the beginning of the video when I said, what is one of the root things that I changed? What is one of the fundamental things that I changed that had this amazing effect on my life? And this was the one that I came up with that was arguably the biggest one, the biggest determining factor for going from a life that I didn't like so much to a life that I love living every single day. Becoming more emotionally intelligent. So that's how you do it. I'll sum it up for you real quick. You want to become more emotionally responsive instead of reactive, so that you can stop letting your emotions dictate your course of action. How do you do that? Well, you have to know what your emotions are first. So get in touch with them. Maybe go look at an emotion wheel. You can look at a picture on Google Images. But get in touch with what you're feeling. Label it. Okay, this is anger. Know how it feels in your body, where it comes up, maybe in your chest, maybe in your forehead, maybe in your whole body, and know what it feels like. That's the first step, because now you can catch it. And number 2, you have to develop a meditation practice so that you can be more conscious of when it's there. You can be more aware of your mental activity. You can see where that comes up, where the emotions rise. And you can stay connected to your intention behind wanting to change in some way. Maybe wanting to change in being a healthier person, or wanting to change in that you want to become somebody who doesn't have anger management issues anymore. Those address the examples that we talked about with the possessiveness anger outburst with the pen, and the junk food example. Now you can see where these examples can stretch to every corner of your life if you want them to. Or not the examples, but this principle of becoming more emotionally intelligent in your relationships, in your hobbies, in your habits, everywhere. And even just in your self-talk, the way you might get down on yourself, right? The way you might have limiting belief systems. You can recognize that that's a pattern. Oh, an emotion rises when I do that, and it's not good. It doesn't make me feel good. That's where a little bit of depression is coming from. Okay, how do I go about changing that? And now you know your next steps, right? That sums it up for this video, guys. I am a life coach, so I I offer 30-minute to 1-hour consultation calls for free, so you can see if you would like to work with me. No obligation. Maybe if you can even go into it just knowing that I just want to have one call. I just want to talk to somebody, try to get some advice on some stuff. It's absolutely no obligation. You can DM me on my Instagram page, or you can email me. I'll attach my email and the link to my Instagram in the description. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it valuable, please give it a like. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and share it with a friend if you think somebody needs to hear this. And yeah, that's it. That sums up today's video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Have a good one.